Okay, so how are you going to be graded on this paper? So the grading criteria is as follows. So your research, interview and photograph and depth of your sense making. So, have you gone deep in terms of your interview and have you cited information from the interview? Do you index or document your family interview, right? So that you actually had a conversation with a knowledgeable family member and that you're reflecting in deeply with your history. Have you included have you included and thought deeply about your family photograph? Did you do appropriate probing of your family history? Do you self-reflexively examine your identity through your writing? How have you dug into your family history? So just kind of like the depth of your look at your cultural identity. So that's 50 points. Then your use of concepts from class. So this is key, right? So how can you bring in relevant information from our textbook, from our class discussions to sort of make sense of yourself? And you don't want to try to include every term, right? But just a couple like key terms that you could find useful to kind of orient, to who you are. So use relevant vocabulary, ideas, and concepts correctly from class that we have been using all semester to examine intercultural communication. Our weekly readings will cover themes relevant to your paper. Make sure to take advantage of these concepts and use them to make sense of your family history. And so, yeah, like maybe ascription, avowal, standpoint, theory, standpoint, cultural identity, right, as a concept, whatever it is, bring in those relevant terms to kind of help you make sense of yourself. Whiteness, right, or cultural space, right, and bring those concepts into the class. And you, of course, would cite our textbook, right, in those moments, or an outside source, but you would, bring in some of those concepts that we've been discussing each week. Also, clarity, organization, formatting, and quality of work. So you want to make sure you proofread for proper grammar and spelling. Do you use proper MLA or APA formatting? And I'm open to both MLA or APA. Does the writing make sense and is it clear? Is the paper well written? Do you tell a good narrative? Make sure your paper is stapled up. That was if you were handing it in face to face, which of course you'd be uploading it now in this online setting. So we have the depth of your sense making, your use of concepts from class, the clarity, organization, right? Is it proofread? Is it, is your formatting good? And I want you to name your subheadings, which is good, or like have cool titles for your subheadings. And again, I'll show you some examples of that from the sample papers. And then citation, right? So bringing in, you want to, at minimum, you want to cite our book, the interviewee, and one more academic source. So 3 sources would be the minimum. So you'd have, our textbook by Catherine Sorrells, bring in some concepts, the interview that you conducted, and then maybe some outside source that talks about history or your identity or, a newspaper, an old newspaper from some time period that you want to talk about, but have at least one other source, a 3rd source. Then you're going to provide a works cited or bibliography. I believe it's called references actually with APA. So I want to be able to see those sources correctly listed, and then bring in relevant outside knowledge to support concepts from the book or support your family history. Citation is always an important component of academic writing. Yeah. So bringing in, at the very least, the book, the interviewee, and one more outside source. So I was thinking this would be due October 15th to Canvas. I could, I'm a little bit flexible on that. If you wanted an extra week or something, I could talk to you about that. And then you're going to present a summary of your paper. So this is like a 2 to 3 minute presentation that summarizes the main points of your paper. It's actually cool if you do like a little highlight of each of the 4 sections. That probably would be longer than 3 minutes, but that's okay if it goes a little longer. But yeah, that's actually fun, and you'll post that and you'll comment on some classmates' posts as well. And what's really interesting is the ways that our cultural identities actually intersect. And you'll be like, oh, my grandfather was a farmer, or oh, my dad was a farmer, right? Or whatever it is. And so you kind of find these like interesting connections. So by listening to each other present your papers, you should learn a lot and kind of listen for similarities and differences across our cultural identities. So that's how you'll be evaluated. So, the depth of your sense making, your use of concepts from class, clarity, organization, and then citation, and then the presenting your papers, 20 points, and it is kind of pass fail, right? So just uploading a video about yourself, talking about your video. It's up talking about your paper. It might be helpful too to actually show us the photograph that you analyze. So it'd be kind of neat to have us kind of like look at that and see your sense making with that. So that is the cultural identity paper. It is the big paper of the semester and 4 sections, 6 pages, and I'll be talking more about it as we go. The first step, just right away, would be who is my knowledgeable family member, right? Who am I going to reach out to and conduct an interview with in the next 3 weeks, right? And get a game plan for that. And in the next video, I'll be talking about some tips for how to actually conduct that interview. Okay.